he went out and actually piloted a 3-masted windjammer, sailed through the British lines. He actually disguised one of the sailors as his wife, and they pretended to be a Norwegian crew. And they literally, on the windjammer, you drop the rails, and they had deck guns mounted on it.
Wow.
He sailed around the British islands, captured a whole bunch of ships. He only killed one person on this entire journey. True story, 100%. Sailed all the way down to around Cape Horn into the Pacific. At that time, the United States had joined the war, so he started raiding American ships. And he would pull into port and let the prisoners out. He'd take them prisoner and sink their ships, but he only killed one accidentally, actually. The ship got sea wrecked on a lagoon off Tahiti. And so he took a sailboat and a small skiff from the boat, made it almost all the way in New Zealand, got captured, put in a prisoner of war camp. And it's like Hogan's Heroes. He put on a play and they stole the commandant's yacht.
Come on.
That's awesome.
Meanwhile, his crew, they finally captured von Luckner, but they captured his crew, captured a merchant ship, and they wrecked on Easter Island. And that's where they found him after the war.
No kidding. Kind of like Captain Cook.
It's wild. And then in World War II, he fell out with the Nazis because Hitler hated the aristocracy big time. And he was a count, and he was very well known. Lowell Thomas wrote 3 books about this guy. And, they're embellished heavily. I had to go to the archival resources to really get the true story. And in World War II, he was in his hometown when the Americans showed up. He brokered a peace between the Americans and the SS so that his town didn't get destroyed. And, he's just this incredible character, and nobody's ever heard of him. The other one I did.
What's his name again? I'm sorry. Could you say his name again?
Count Felix von Luckner.
Okay.
Just absolutely a blast. And the other one that I love is Frank Luke Jr., the balloon buster from Arizona. World War I pilot, comes from, this is a rambunctious kid, gets sent overseas, becomes a pilot, for the American Air Service in France, 1917, 1918. Frank Luke became the #1 ranking ace. The only reason that Rickenbacker became the ace of aces was that Frank Luke died.
Wow.
Frank Luke, literally on one day, he and his flying partner, Joe Werner, they had the commanding general present, and he was notorious for blowing up observation balloons. Oh. And he pointed, this is literally like the Mickey Mantle or the Babe Ruth pointing, to the field. He said, I'm going to blow up those 3 balloons that you see in the distance. They took off and popped them one right after the other. And I mean, they're dealing with German fighters and everything else. When Frank Luke was shot down the day he was killed, he was shot down, climbed out of the cockpit with a gun, and got into a gun battle with the German infantry. I mean,
amazing.
And if you go to the Capitol in Arizona, there is a statue of Frank Luke.
Wow.
Right there. I mean, he is literally a larger than life character. And purely American. He is a cowboy. He's everything. It is just the best.
So cool.
No, nothing I ever heard about in school.
No,
never heard about that guy.
I'm listening to Storm of Steel right now, by that German. I can't think of his name, but World War I. I've never done a whole lot of reading in World War I, but I've started doing it, and man, dude, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
When I did the book on von Luckner, it was hilarious because I had a publisher go, this is great. Can you make him American? And I was like, it's a true story. No, I can't make him American.
That's funny.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
That's how, the publishing industry can be a little goofy.
What?
The mainstream.
No, what?
We don't know.
Blaine, what do you mean by that? No.
Well, Defiance does a great job. I love Defiance. I refer people to Defiance all the time.
Well, thank you. We
Appreciate that.
definitely appreciate that. And by the way, I tell your story a lot because, and I know you're familiar with this, Blaine, but because we get a lot of people submit, and we've had our conversations about this, and but this is a great time. And if you wouldn't mind, because hopefully, I'm hoping that some aspiring authors, especially authors that genuinely want to become a best-selling author and are realistic about it, what advice would you give to them? Because as you know, and we've had many conversations, a lot of people think that, you're a best-selling author, a multi-best-selling author, an award-winning author. You've been interviewed on national TV. You've been, all kinds of things. Anyway, they think you're a best-selling author simply because you're a good writer, and that's it. You just write a book and then you send it, and then that's it. You sit back and collect your mailbox.
This is a great question, Mark.
Oh man,
you're laughing there, Blaine. You would be amazed at how many authors that have submitted manuscripts to us, and when they find out, and nobody knows who they are. And I always tell them the same thing. Now, maybe you might disagree with us, you might agree, I don't know, but I say there's 3 ways books sell. You're either famous, or Joe Rogan, or you figure out a way to become basically famous. You got to build your brand. You got to build your whatever. You got to become known. People buy books because of the author. Anyway, can you just share a little bit from your perspective on this? What do you do to become a best-selling author? What kind of work do you put into it?
Yeah.
I'm on with you today.
The hardest job of all, man.
On a given week, I do 2 or 3 podcasts or webcasts. I don't care. You have to be able to build your brand, and first of all, you have to know who your audience is. Who's your readers? Who do they connect with? You need to connect with them. And that means you are constantly on social media posting stuff. And it's not stuff like, hey, go buy my book, because that doesn't work. You need to get thousands of people following you. And that means you need to roll up your sleeves and post interesting content that brings people in. So I've written for Defiance Daily. I write for a number of online forums, American Thinker and things along those lines. I write stuff all the time for them. And at the end, it always says that Blaine Pardoe is the author of the Blue Dawn series, Tenure series, Land and Sea series, and blah, blah, blah. People will, every time I do an article, it sells books. Now, it doesn't sell a lot of books, but it sells 1 or 2, and you have to do that. That means, I have to take occasionally 20 minutes on my day to write up an editorial. Big deal. It's 800 words. Crank it out, send it out. That's part of it. And, there's no secret sauce to this. You have to roll up your sleeves and figure out how you're going to engage with your audiences. I've hired publicists in the past. I don't think it's helped. If I go on a radio show, it's not like people pull their car over and go, oh, I'm going to order that book from Amazon I just heard about. It does build your brand a little bit, but it doesn't necessarily result in immediate sales.
Right.
You've just got to be willing to roll up your sleeves and engage with people in a meaningful manner and find out where there's, I've done 2 conventions this year, science fiction conventions. And I always talk about history topics. I talk about anything there, and it sells books. You gotta prepare yourself to invest time-wise and effort-wise in marketing yourself. If you think a publisher is going to do it, look, I will tell you, I've done the big publishing houses. Okay. I really have. I've done Penguin Putnam. I've done all these other stuff. And I will tell you, unless you're their top 1% sellers, they spend 0 money promoting your book. 0. It is 100% incumbent on you to do the actual marketing of your book. And it has nothing to do with Defiance is a mid-level publisher, blah, blah, blah. Well, no, I'm telling you, I've written for Defiance, Wargate, a number of publishers. Everybody is telling me the same thing. You have to go do your own marketing. So be prepared to do it. I don't think the model of going to a Barnes and Noble and sitting at a table with a stack of your books really works. You're going to move 3 or 4 books. And honestly, it's more frustrating than anything because you're sitting at a table, people walk by, and you have to try to convince them to buy your book. And then they go, well, I don't even read that kind of book.
Yeah.
You roll
it's a tough sell. Yeah.
It's a tough sell. And I don't think that does it. And I think a lot of authors think that's glamorous. And I will tell you, I don't do it anymore. And even when I go to conventions, I don't haul books with me. I just go and talk. And people go, oh, well, I saw that guy at the convention. I'll download some of his books. You have to be able to go out and have that conversation. Most of the interviews that I do, it's talking about current day politics.
Right.
We don't talk about my books. People are interested in me. They're going to go, well, he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulder. I'll go buy his book, or check out what he's written. That's the real key. And I think these authors don't understand that that's a quarter of your time that you're spending is not writing, it's promoting what you've written. And the other thing is, I think a lot of authors crank out one book and they go, I want it to be a bestseller. It didn't become a bestseller. I'm never going to write another book.
Right.
Here's the deal. You have to write a bunch of books.
Bingo.
I'm sorry. It's just, they don't have to be a series, but you need to write a whole bunch of books. And it helps if you write them in a certain genre, so that you get known in that genre, but it's not required. I've written business management books. I've written all sorts of books over the years. I did a horror book. I do true crime with my daughter. You can write in different genres, but you're not going to get necessarily a lot of carryover between those. It's like my true crime fans don't read my military sci-fi stuff. And I know that, but I have to make sure I feed that audience stuff and feed my, the other audience's stuff. You have to go out and do that. This week, for example, I've been invited down to Norfolk on a true crime book that I wrote 4 or 5 years ago with my daughter. And there's been a break in the case. So I'm filming 2 segments on TV on Wednesday down in Norfolk. That's part of the promotion stuff. Does it eat up time? Yeah. Does it sell some books? Yeah, it will. It'll be on the evening news and it'll sell some books. So you have to be able to do that. And you have to be able to reach out to people and engage with them. Figure out, go to a public library and say, I want to be a speaker. I want to read a chapter from one of my books and talk about the writing process. People want to know how to get a book published. They don't necessarily want to hear about your book. They want to hear about, how do I get published? If you're a published author with Defiance, you should be going out right now and contact your local library and say, I want to talk about how you get a book published. I guarantee you'll fill the room because everybody wants to know how to do that. And guess what? You're going to make a lot of contacts and 3 or 4 people are going to go buy books. And it doesn't cost you a damn penny. It does cost you time.
Right.
But that was brilliant. Blaine, what you just said right there. Okay. And I've never heard this before. I just learned something. What you just said was what authors are missing is, and authors, Blaine, they tend to be a little prima donna about their book. They think they have written the best book that's ever
little,
man.
a little.
Blaine knows it. Yeah, I mean, Blaine, you would be amazed. No, you wouldn't be amazed.
There's the level of ego involved. I think it can deter you from selling books if you're not careful.
And they get so focused on their book, which is good on one hand, but what you just said is brilliant. You said, forget about it. Just go to the library. Don't talk about your book. Talk about a subject matter like how to get published, and you'll fill it up. That is brilliant. That is so interesting.
I think because it's speaking to generating some interest in who you are and some curiosity about what's this guy talking about. He's doing these weekly updates. They go and he wrote some books too. And it's funny how the direct correlation of marketing to book sales in the publish, it's just completely different than any other product out there. In some cases, some authors have to be patient. As long as they're still doing the work, they're generating curiosity for themselves. And then, that thriller, that crime thriller you're talking about, something relevant will come up related to the book. And then all of a sudden there's a bunch of interest in a book you wrote 5 years ago. That's just the nature of how this works. There's some books that are coming up now that everybody's curious about. Whenever the Iran situation came up, people are wondering about, people were asking us about Seymour Hersh and all these different folks. And it's like, man, they wrote books back in the 90s and all these different things. So that's also not an unusual case, depending on what you're writing about. If you're out there and you're approaching different genres and topics and you're patient with this and something relevant to what you wrote comes up, you can reap the benefits.
You really can. I get calls all the time for stuff, and I always jump at it. It's pretty rare where I'll go, I don't want to go in there. I did do an interview where a guy I've been through the cancel culture thing. I got canceled from my BattleTech franchise after 36 years. And I had a guy in Pittsburgh who had to be on his live TV show because he's very much, there is no such thing as cancel culture. And I was like, okay, I know this is going to be a hostile interview. And so I just had fun with it, right. And I mean, I tore the guy. I just tore the guy up. I mean, and I didn't care because it was like, what he was saying was bullshit. And, did it sell a book? Maybe, maybe not. But, sometimes you got to lean into the stuff that's going to make you a little uncomfortable. And I think people have this illusion of, well, I'll go to the farmer's market and set up a table of my books. And it's like, okay, you've written one book. Man, you're just going to learn to hate being a writer, dude. Sitting under a tent, and I got to tell you, right now it's 90 degrees here in Virginia. You're going to be sitting in a farmer's market sweating your nutsack off, and you're going to be sitting there going, gee, I sold 2 books. I hate this, and it cost me $50 for the tent and all this other stuff, and you're going to hate it. But, there's a lot of places where people want to hear about the author experience, or they want to hear your opinions on stuff. I'm on social media all the time, and I finish a chapter, I pop on social media and do something. That's just part of it. I think a lot of these guys just don't want to roll up their sleeves, or they're in the impression that it's 1960 and the publisher's going to do all this work for you. And I'm like, I've sat down, I've heard Mark make the pitch to new authors when we were in San Antonio, and he's explained to them, like, you got to do the work. And they're nodding their head. And I'm like, I know what they're going to do. They're going to go home and go, the publisher talked to me and they're interested in my book.
Yeah. Yep. That's it.
That's all they're interested in. And that's all they focus on. So
what I've discovered, Blaine, is what they're thinking. Cause I've now spent enough years in this. I've tried to figure out because I tell them 6 months after the book's published, they're complaining, well, why isn't the book? And I go, well, have you gone out and done this? Well, no, but my book is so good. Yes, I heard you say that, Mark, but you didn't understand. You had not read my book. You didn't know how good it was. And I'm like, that's irrelevant.
Yeah. Can you speak to that a little bit? Even if you're a very passionate author and you did write something incredible, let's say, even if you didn't go with the book, just putting your book out there, a great piece of work, isn't enough.
No, it's not. There are 14 million books up on Amazon.com. You're one of them. Congratulations.
Right.
Do you think Amazon's going to somehow miraculously bump your book up to the top? No, Amazon will fight you, especially if you're a conservative author.
Oh yeah.
We lost all our pre-sales on Blue Dawn. It was an accident by Amazon.com.
That was a huge ordeal.
Yeah, it was a big deal with me, and it really hurt. And I knew it was them just playing monkey warfare with me. Right. And I know what I'm being screwed with, but I didn't expect you guys to do that work. You can write a hell of a great book, but you get a spike right when it comes out. It's all your friends and family and your buddies. And you told all 30 of your guys on social media about the book, and 2 of them bought it, and it's really good. And then it goes like that.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa and I had this discussion not too long ago. She's like, every time you put out a new Blue Dawn book, all the other Blue Dawn books sell. And it's an amazing, it's like a 50% of the people automatically go through and are buying these things again. And so, I'm going to write another one. Of course I am. I'd be a moron not to write them.
Well, it's interesting you had mentioned that, because we actually did some assessment internally. We've got a lot of authors. Some of them like to write real robust pieces of work. And when it was actually big books. And we had explored some of this because of the success of your series, which is, if you broke these apart and you're able to put these in different stories, and we were just playing around in here, and we thought, look at this. This actually, when you're a constant writer such as yourself and you're putting out new material, it does regenerate interest in, we were seeing pop-ups in old sales to older parts of any series, not just yourself. So it was, there's definitely something to that as far as, it's a very it's got to be a labor of love, does it not?
Yeah. I mean, you really have to be able to step up and do it. And a lot of it's production. And I think a lot of authors are unaware of the actual production process for a book. And I mean, you're going to be reading your book, going back and forth with an editor 4 or 5 times. You will get to the point where you're like, I never want to read this freaking book again. And I don't mean that in a bad way. That's just literally where it is.
That's how it is, yeah.
And then the icing on the cake is you're going to have to go through who's going to do the audiobook. And then you have to do a spreadsheet for here's how you pronounce all the crap in the audiobook. Then the audiobook comes back and now you have to listen to someone else read your book to you. And I don't mean it as a criticism, but it's like I got to sit for 14 hours now and listen to someone read a book that I have read 5 times and I wrote.
Right.
It's like, and they don't understand, I think, all of the production that has to go through with this. And it's a big job. And so, I'm working on 3 books right now, okay, that are in various stages of production. And I have to constantly be on top of, well, I know what the next step is for X, and I know what's coming up with Y, and I'm just finishing up writing Z. You have to have that kind of discipline to be able to go through it. And I don't think authors have that kind of discipline. They write a book and they're like, there, I wrote the book.
Yep.
How come it's not just on top of Amazon.com? And they get mad at the publisher. And I've seen this live with people, and they get upset about it. But they also don't reach out to people who are doing YouTube videos who review that type of book. They're not going, hey, I'll send you a copy of my book if you'll consider reviewing it on your show. I had some guy, he's a crazy ass survivalist in a bunker somewhere, but he reads through the Blue Dawn books. He just did the first 2 and he just raves about it. And and I'm like, the guy doesn't have a huge audience or anything, but he loves the books and he tells everybody about it, and it's up on YouTube. So I get to post his content. I didn't have to do a thing. He didn't interview me. He's just telling people how much he loves the books. Yeah,
and that's the other part to this too, is you get other advocates that are just out there, that are we see this with some of our authors and so forth. So it's an impassioned exercise for sure. And
that guy probably feels so cool that Blaine,
the author
of his favorite books,
right,
thinks he's cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
So and then it's a cycle. Then it keeps going around. Other people hear it. They're like, I want to hear about this Blaine Pardoe.
Dude,
I want to read me some of these books.
If I'm not mistaken, Blaine, I believe it was you that I heard. But this is a great time to correct me if I'm wrong. I think we were in San Antonio. I heard you talking because you had a lot of fans showing up, which is crazy. That wasn't even an author show. That wasn't about books. That
was a state GOP convention.
And Blaine's got all these fans showing up to our booth, and they're in line, getting their book signed from him and talking to him. Did I hear you say, because there were some people that I guess are aspiring authors, and you said, look, in order to become a best-selling author, you got to have 2 hats. You got to wear your author hat when you're writing your book, but when that book is over, you take that hat off and you put your business owner hat on, and then you become a business owner, a marketer, and a salesman. Did you say that? Okay, you did. Okay.
Something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what I said. I think it was more marketer.
Yeah, but is that correct?
Yeah. I talked to a lot of the authors that were there because I was like, they're like, well, your books seem to be selling well. And they're kind of pissy about it. Like,
yeah,
selling well. How come mine's not? And I'm like, what have you done? Well, I came here
It's
I love Blaine.
you know, it reminds me of my dad.
I'm like, well,
yeah,
well,
that's why him and your dad
look,
got along so well.
We did have authors in the past where we had, you know, it was in me being fairly new to the industry. It's something I caught on quick. Is whenever we get feedback like that, the first thing that I would go and look is say, okay, no Twitter.
No social
There's
media.
you got no social media imprint. And then I'd go back through some of the old emails with Pops, and like he would just straight up say the same thing. What have you done? Name one thing you've done? We
Yeah.
set up 2 interviews. We did this. Do things that honestly most publishers just won't do. They won't do a lot of the stuff. I mean, we're a little bit different in that regard, but I mean, you got to have the ability to labor into this. If you want to be a bestseller, you know, it doesn't just happen because you have a great book.
It doesn't.
And
No.
it's a very respective of the production process, because the work involved in producing a book, I don't think people truly understand, because from everything from the editors to the formatters to the cover designers, but it's not only just that phase of production, it's checking off every point as part of that stage of production. Like you said before, editing, going back and forth 4 or 5, you are rereading this book over and over again. I got a lot of sympathy for the authors and for the editors involved. That's always the first part of the step that we do, obviously, because that's the biggest step, right? And I'm sure most publishers operate that way, but
oh yeah.
it's very eye-opening. If you're an author that's new to this, maybe you got a fresh manuscript, I think it's very important to understand the part of the production process. It's something that we're starting to do when we know we've got a new author. It's important to walk through those steps, because this is why you come to a publisher. It actually it's supposed to make it easier than self-publishing it, but if you want a quality product out there, it takes time, and you really have to labor, and you have to labor into it and to get it right, because the last thing you want is a book on the shelf that has a bunch of mistakes in it. We've seen it before. We've seen people come from other publishers. Yeah, we can get your book published in 3 months, and you can't understand half of the book because it's so badly edited, so badly formatted. And my heart goes out to a lot of those people, because those are usually red flags. I would say if a publisher is telling you they can rush, they can get we can do this and that, unless you've already done editing, and depending on how much you've done, I mean, that's something I think authors should be cautious to.
I think if you're an author and you've turned in your manuscript, what you should be doing is going on social media and going, I just turned in my manuscript to my publisher, and use your social media and I do this all the time. It's like book so-and-so just went to the publisher. Oh, I'm working on the edits for this. Oh, I just approved the art for the cover of book whatever. And the people are following me because of what I write. They love it.
They're like,
you're creating anticipation too. That's brilliant marketing strategy. That's 101 right there.
I've watched some of and it's not just Defiance authors, it's other authors, and they almost get angry about it, because it's like, well, I shouldn't have to do any of this. And it's like, well, you don't know. Why are you writing a book? Are you writing a book to make money? Are you writing a book because you've always wanted to write a book as an artistic thing? Why do you want to write a book? And it's interesting, because even the artistic ones go, but I want to make money doing it. And if you want to make money doing it, well, I got news for you. If you were making pottery and never took the pottery to a show to sell it, and never put pictures up in your social media of the pottery that you were doing, well, you're going to have a house full of pottery.
Have a pottery house.
I don't care what you're making. You gotta, if you're not gonna go out and tell the world about it, I'm sorry, you brought this on yourself. And don't blame other people for your failures. I get pissed when somebody goes, oh, I'm so mad at Elon Musk, these damn billionaires. I'm like, no problem in your life was ever caused by Elon Musk.
Right.
None, zero. He did nothing to you. and the problem isn't that he's wealthy. The problem is you think you deserve that wealth. So if you deserve that wealth, well, you're going to have to do what Elon did, come up with a way to change everything.
Well, and a lot of people don't understand. I would say definitely my generation, the aspect of risk when you're taking on the efforts to become someone like Elon Musk, or you want to become a successful author. There's a lot of risk involved. There's a lot of turmoil. You have to passionately focus on the goal at hand and your daily tasks. And it was somebody that said, I think it was either Kevin O'Leary or it was I think it was Kevin O'Leary talking about Steve Jobs, how he would tell Kevin to shut the fuck up and you're going to do what I say, because today we got two things we got to do and it's got to be done. And it was on an 80-20 rule where he said 80% of the time was focused on what you got to do. 20% was responding to the noise. And slowly over time, before he died, it turned about 95-5 for him. People say that Elon Musk runs about 100% without the noise.
Yeah.
We like to think that, but
I just think authors have got to own their product, and you got to go through and say, look, I'm going to roll up my sleeves and make this product successful. And if you're not going to do that, don't blame everybody else for your unwillingness to do that. And if you want to hire a publicist, I can give you the name of publicists. It'll cost you $1 or $2 to have them and they'll put you on 30 or 40 radio programs. You're not going to talk about your book. That comes at the very end. They're going to put you on to talk about something else. Fiction stuff is real hard.
Oh yeah.
But you look at what I write with Blue Dawn, it's all tied to the cancel culture. It's all tied to
current events. Yeah.
So when I do a radio show, I rarely get to talk about the book. They usually at the end, they'll throw you a bone, they'll go,
right.
Hey, what's your current project that you're working on? You get 10 seconds to whittle through it. But in reality, you're out there kind of pushing it. Now, if you've written some romance story, I guarantee you're not going to get any radio coverage for it. And there's about a bazillion romance stories out there. And most of them come across like watching the Hallmark Channel. They're all the same. Okay.
Right.
I don't know how you're going to pull that off, but you have to be realistic about what your expectations are, and you've got to do the work. I'm sorry. It's on you.
Hey, folks, and for the audience, we didn't pay Blaine to go.
No.
These are realistic. What I really liked about this so far is what you talked about in building the anticipation. You're telling your audience you submitted the manuscript. Now you're going through editing. Now you're going through format. Here's some of that's so much marketing material on its own, especially when you get to something like the cover art. I mean, I know there's, stipulations of what you can share and whatnot, but those are exciting, points of emphasis that people can follow as you're staging your product to market. So when you're getting your book ready to go, I really like that idea. Yeah. I thought that was awesome.
Well, your dad was brilliant on a number of points, and he and I saw eye to eye on this. He's like, it's all about the clickable moment too. So, sometimes authors get early on, they start talking about their book and people are like, great, when can I buy it? Well, you can't yet. And I don't show the cover generally until they can also click on a link and go buy the damn thing.
Right.
Because I just want, I know this will sound mercenary. I just want the money.
Right.
Well, yeah. So we do too. I mean, we're in business, but
that's the look, my dad, I know he was interviews anytime he could get us, like, even if it was something on a local news channel talking about the statues being torn down,
didn't matter what,
and they wanted to go after him for that, and he'd show up with his cowboy hat on and just tell him how the cow ate the cabbage. Right. And that garnered a lot of attention. That worked for him very well. And I know in the beginning it was a struggle how do you market but my dad was always doing new things with what he called a renegade capital. He was always looking for something else to build. And there's a lot of people that are like that. Books are no different. It's the same damn thing.
Well, I'll give you a real practical example. So I did a blog post. I have a blog that I've been doing for years, and my blog gets visited by around 250 hits a day.
What's the name of it?
It's called Notes from the Bunker. Real simple. And I write about anything. I want in there. Sometimes it's humor, sometimes it's not. Sometimes I stumbled across a threat letter I got from Antifa, and I got it like 5 years ago. They stuffed it in my mailbox, and I wrote up a thing. This was the time Antifa came after me, which is why they're featured in Blue Dawn and Tenure as the antagonist group, because they freaking threatened me. And so I put up a picture of the letter. I had 500 hits on the damn thing. Well, every time I post to my blog, it automatically goes up to the 200 subscribers to my blog. They get a notice in the email going, hey, Blaine's put up a new blog post. Plus, I posted up in several different forums. You go up on Facebook, there's conservative politics, there's different radio programs and things along those lines where you can post on their Facebook page. I post the stuff up there. And it's amazing because you get people that respond to it. And by the way, oh, he's an author? Click, they go look for the book.
Yeah.
So, am I pushing the book? No. Did I blatantly mention the books? Absolutely. First line of my blog says, I bet you wonder why I always am picking on Antifa in my books. Wow. Let's go explore this a little bit. You have to be able to do that, and you have to be a little creative in what you're doing. And it's not always pushing the book, but you want to create interest where people go, well, I'll read his damn blog every week just because there's always something new in it and I like it.
Yeah.
Now and then they're going to get a marketing pitch in there.
Yeah.
Usually for the new thing. And so you hop on board with that.
This is something really important. And I'm sorry, Travis.
No, you're good. You're good.
I've got to ask this because this is a huge deal. And Blaine, you're going to laugh. So authors, and I'm talking about new authors that don't know what they don't know any of this yet. They're offended if they don't get a traditional deal because they've been told by out of work, these literary agents on YouTube and stuff like that. They tell authors that if your book is really good, then you will have no problem getting a traditional deal. And some authors, and what a lot of people don't understand is a lot of authors are starting to go more to, I think our agreement is very, very generous as far as royalties and stuff. You've worked with the big publishing houses. What are some of the advantages, disadvantages? First of all, is it true that if your book is really that good, you're automatically going to get a traditional deal? And number two, are traditional deals really that great compared to, say, a deal from Defiance Press? And what are some of the differences?
I don't really know much about your non-traditional stuff. I don't, I've never had that discussion because I didn't fall into that bucket when I walked in the door. But to me, I don't complain at all about the percentage that I get because you guys do all the real heavy freaking lifting. I don't want to have to, get a cover. I don't want to have to hire an editor, and I don't want to have to hire a layout person, and I don't want to hire somebody to do the audiobook, and I don't or build a studio in my basement so I can do the audiobook. Who wants to hear this voice for 14 fucking hours? I think people, regardless of what you're looking at, you have to look at the amount of work and effort that's actually taking place. And I don't think anybody fully understands and appreciates that. And if you hired all those people on Fiverr, what I just rattled through, for example, you're talking, if you want to publish yourself, you're going to get a bigger piece of the pie, but you're going to lay out $3,000 for all the stuff I just told you.
That's just a piece of it. Yeah. It ranges up a hell of a lot more than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, especially when you get into the audiobook stuff, and you have to have audiobooks at this point. It is an industry requirement because easily, I would say 25-30% of my sales right now are audiobooks. And so you have to have that. It's a requirement. It's not easy to hire somebody to sit down for 14 hours. And then, by the way, they have to edit it. They have to set the voice levels all the same because they don't want to start talking real quiet. And then the next chapter, they're yelling.
Bad audio.
So you want to go solo? Yeah, you can make 75% with a KDP type thing all on your own. Absolutely, you could. But you're going to hire a whole bunch of people to do this, and you're going to get mixed results, and you're going to get frustrated as hell. It's a lot of work all on its own, just being an author. It's a lot worse if you have to do the actual heavy lifting. And the heavy lifting isn't writing the book. It's getting it through a production cycle so that you get a quality product at the end.
Well, and we've seen some egregious examples of first-time authors going the self-publishing route. They go to Fiverr, they hire, these different contractors or whatever the case. We've seen people spend an insane amount of money.
The record that I've so far with all my record, a little over 40 grand, and they hadn't sold a thousand.
That was people don't believe us when we talk that was a real case.
Yeah.
The one, at least I think what was the guy that was like 15,000?
Oh no,
10, and it was
15,
a botched book.
Yeah,
it
10
was
or 15,000 is average for people to self-publish that spend 10. That's nothing. Yeah.
Yeah.
My
So
record
we
so far is 40 grand. A guy spent. At that point, it's been a little over 40 grand, and it sold less than 1,000 books.
Yeah, and I think that's why, this is why we're very excited. We appreciate you coming on doing these interviews. But I think, this is not an avenue I expected to go in. We were just going to shoot the shit. But it's very interesting because, a lot of people don't understand the element of engaging with the publisher. And when you're talking about traditional deals, not everybody's J.K. Rowling, and you've got an audience where a publisher is going to give you advances. We've been asked about that. Oh, do you think I could get about $100,000 in advance, and you got 200 followers on X? And it's like, I'm sorry. I wish you all the best and to do that well, but it's very rare. Even the big house publishers will give you a traditional deal where they're going to give you things like advances. You already have a marketing presence, typically 9 times out of 10 when you get this.
Oh no,
look, marketing on its own is a multi-billion-dollar industry for a reason. So people like to, when they look at things like Shark Tank, for example, and some of the deals that are made on there, a lot of those companies that are asking for those investing, they're not really asking for the investing. A lot of them, they just need a great marketing team on there. And some of those folks that are on that show, that they specialize in doing that, and there is a lot of truth to that. So the marketing side of this, sure, you can hire a publicist to do this. It's funny you said that because we didn't talk before the show or anything. I don't think they work at all. I never thought they work. I wouldn't discourage an author from doing it if it might help, but there's so many other ways to skin a cat here, and I think a lot of it is generating interest in yourself as an author. So everything you're talking about, from starting a blog and getting creative on social media and responding to stuff, and definitely getting interviews wherever you can get them, even if they're, and that's the truth in life, regardless. You got to lean into the things that are uncomfortable if you're going to be successful. You can't stay in your cushiony pillow and expect to thrive and to grow in these different areas, especially if you're new to different industries. And that's an important part, I think, of this conversation.
I think I agree with you. First of all, though, the subject of advances comes up with me all the time. People are like, well, what kind of advance do you get with publisher X or Y? And I'm like, the days of getting advances are gone. It is gone. It was dwindling in the 90s. When I was doing Penguin Putnam books, the advances were 5, 7, 9,000 type things. And, the whole publishing cycle, you barely eat through that,
Right.
back in the days when it was like a 4% royalty type thing. Publishing industry is constantly evolving. And I think the concept of getting advances, look, you're not Bill Clinton. You're not Laura Trump.
Right.
Or Harry.
You are not going to get a big advance. And the publishing industry has gotten weirdly distorted anyway. So you see guys that get books and they're like, wow, they sold a whole bunch. Well, look at what happened with Vindeman, the congressman out of Virginia here. He bought 30,000 copies of his brother's book with campaign funds down in a bookstore in Florida. Well,
had
any bookstore that's moving $30,000 of or 30,000 copies of a single book through them. There's definitely some shady shit going on there. And I know of several people who've told me, you're a conservative author. What kind of deals do you have with the PACs? And
we still got you.
So a buddy who works on the PAC, and they buy copies of, they buy 2,000 copies of my book and hand them out to, guys that have contributed. And I'm like, how do I get on that bandwagon? What the hell, but it distorts the whole industry. So,
Yes.
You got to know this industry a little bit. And if you're a writer, you better know a little bit about the industry. And if you're expecting advances, I'm sorry, I don't know. I deal with a lot of publishers. I don't know anybody right now who's handing those things out.
Yeah, if someone like Donald Trump Jr. or somebody came to us for something like that, maybe.
But then
that would be consideration. But it's like you have a projection of the sales that would come in to even justify that kind of thing. The formula and the metrics to go into that kind of thing. You're talking about somebody at a very high visibility point in the market to sell those books. And
right.
not everybody fits in that. Even people that are big, they don't even fit in that market. Like you would think they would. It's really not that simple because it really comes down to the author at the end of the day. Now, of course, wherever if we see an opportunity rise and we can get you on a show, we're going to hammer you and say, get on here. We've done this before and we've seen people get on there. They don't even promote their book.
Yes. Oh, I remember one in particular. Your dad lost his mind when we had an
we just watched one the other month and same thing.
Yeah.
Gets on for a 2-hour segment, not one mention of the book. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I watched this whole thing all excited. Told my wife, I said, man, they're going to plug his book on this big show.
Never even mentioned it.
Not a word. So, that's how it goes.
And they'll go, well, gee, I was on that show. How come it didn't move books? You didn't ever tell anybody you were an author.
Yeah. Nothing in the marquee, nothing.
Dude, you go on a show like that. You have a copy.
I called Mark. I was so upset, man. I was. But I remember that story you told about my dad.
He was beside himself.
Didn't we set that one up?
No, we set it. The guy was a J6er, was in jail, got out. We did some really crazy stuff for this guy. And dude, he got on the Tim Pool podcast, was on there for an hour with Tim Pool. Blaine, he never mentioned his book. Never mentioned his book. Your dad was about
flip the lid, man.
Your dad flipped the circuit on that one. And this is again why you got to be so careful. The publisher takes such unbelievable financial risk with authors, and what authors don't understand is like, look, we go and we foot all the bills and all this, and then you go out and then you flop. You don't do your part. We have no recourse. I think authors perform better when they have skin in the game. I think when it's a business partnership and they've got skin in the game, they perform at a higher level because, hey, they got something to lose.
Oh, and some people, they want to sell books,
yes.
And it's a mutual interest, of course.
Yeah.
And some people, some of the interviews we've done so far, out of Delaware, she's working on legislation.
Yeah.
How many people can say they got legislation passed by the result of their effort as a non-legislative member?
Exactly.
Stuff like that people want to hear about. People want to hear about, start a blog, talk about what you're doing.
And even
especially if you have passionate projects that are unrelated to, I think it's fair to say you got to be willing to lean in and put yourself out there. You got to be comfortable with putting yourself out there.
And you got to be willing to do it. You got to do the work. That's the thing. These a lot of these authors, they don't want to do the work. And they get offended when you tell them you're going to have to do the work. You're going to have to do the work. And they
quit yelling at our authors, Mark.
Well, no, but
I actually
experienced it when I was in San Antonio.
Yeah.
with an author and telling me that, like, can you believe they didn't roll out the red carpet for me when I showed up here. I didn't have limo service. And I'm like, yeah, you're an author.
Oh, I had to adjust that aspect to it because that was the wildest thing I guess I got to be a little careful here. Well, I mean, look, I would never say anything bad about it. It's just there is an expectation on a publisher's part, I guess, that a lot of the marketing and the agency, revolves around just that. Getting a bona fide marketer outside of a publicist, if you were to pay for a marketing program for your book, we're not talking 10,000. We're not talking 20. If you're really trying to put it costs a hell of a lot more than that.
You're starting at $50,000.
And look, and some of this too is the aspect of this show we're doing here. Part of us getting on social media, we had initially, investors wanted to come in, dump all this money and do all this. And I'm thinking, I don't want to be beholden to anybody doing this stuff. And, you look around at some of the authors, because I remember hearing your name early on, Blaine, and I'm like, well, these guys are out there. They got blogs. They got a social media following. Well, why can't we do it? We can start from the ground up. We can bootstrap it and just figure it out on the way. We got a whole stole of authors that we can talk to and interview, and everybody's got such a unique perspective on everything that's going on. This is really the fun part, I guess I would say. But it's that's the other aspect to it is now, we got an element where a publisher is also slowly but surely we're building a media presence here that should also in turn help visibility towards our authors. Now, media presence takes a lot of time. I'm starting to learn, and I don't know how much people can stomach me and Mark all the time, but that's why we got authors like yourself on the call.
Well, a lot of it is, I just think there's this perception, there's almost a romantic version of what in their heads of what an author's lifestyle is about. And I blame the Hallmark Channel for this. It really is.
Amen, Blaine.
Hallmark Channel, it's distorted our view of love and Christmas and writers, and it's not that lifestyle. You have to be out there doing a lot of stuff, and a lot of it's sitting behind a camera on your computer. But I do a podcast every week, at least once a week. I pop on to the Council of Future Conflicts, and they talk about the wars that America will be facing. Right. Now, I always get a plug-in for the books that I write. What's the latest thing I got coming out? It's this, and I get to do it at the end, but I'm on for 2 or 3 hours sometimes doing that stuff. Yeah. I pop on a number of different podcasts. I won't turn it down because I know this is part of it. You can't just sit back and go, well, you're a successful author, you can rest on your laurels. No, I just booked something for next week. That just before this show with a podcaster. I've never been on with them, but I know the guy, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll be on your show, no problem. You have to be willing to do that stuff, and if you're not getting the invites, you need to be knocking on people's doors, going, "Can I get on your show to talk about this?" And go up on YouTube, look at the stuff that people are doing. And it may be completely unrelated. Maybe you're a big knitter or whatever. Okay, we'll do a YouTube channel on knitting, but at the end, use every episode as a chance to plug one of your books.
Yep.
Yeah, and some of these
build a following of people who are crazy about knitting, and I'm using that as an example. But sooner or later, people are going to go, well, I'll check out the book. Sure, why not?
Bingo. Yeah,
and that's a key part of it, right? And you never know where these things open up. This is something we're learning here on the fly. Some of the calls that we have gotten and other things, like, where did that come from? That studio to California that called us. We didn't know what that was about. We don't think we answered politically correct enough for that one. But it's random, the opportunities that present themselves as you're putting yourself out there. And it's funny too, because I told Mark this, and I still kind of feel it. I said, you'll never get me on camera. You'll never get me on social media. I had deactivated all my accounts for a long time. And then it's like, we're going to do this. And, you know, I feel like I got kind of the signs, if you will. I saw the lamps here. So Pops was getting ready to do this kind of thing. And it was just time to, you know, and then you start having fun with it. And that's the other key part to it too. You do have to have fun putting yourself out there and doing these things. People catch on when you're not interested in what you're doing. You're just trying to you know, make the points meet, if you will. So you do have to have some passion for the game, do you not?
You really do. And I would say you have to lean into the areas of discomfort. You know, when I got canceled, one of the reasons was literally the description for Blue Dawn was put out by Defiance. And that's what triggered my stalker to threaten my life. Was
I had no idea about this.
True story. It's wild. But, you know,
I look at Mark, but by the way, because I blame him immediately.
I'm to blame. I am to blame.
I'm just messing with you.
Absolutely.
No, sorry. Go on.
But you know, the person actually referenced it in the threat that they contacted one of my friends about. You know, and it was wild. And now it would have been real easy for me to be quiet, to not do anything, to try to placate the person, or to worse, go apologize.
Oh, don't ever do that.
You know, which, you know, was totally against this. And instead I just leaned into it. And I was like, if you want to cancel me, if you're going to threaten my life, you're going to get a protective order. My publisher went nuts. They canceled me. Fine. I'll make it public. You know, I'm not keeping quiet about this. I'm going to, you know, you can either be, you know, meek and mild, or you can be the tiger. And I'd rather be the tiger and lean into this stuff. And does it cause tension? Absolutely. I still have a protective order against this guy. And when I go to a convention, I show him my little card and I'm like, is this guy, you know, signed up? Because if he's signed up, you know, I need security here. Which is always a great story for bars, you know?
Yeah. Well, would you mind delving into that story a little bit and what you can tell and what you can share about it?
It's why this person reached out to me. It was a female at the time, a lesbian in her late 20s, early 30s, who was a nurse. And I had written an editorial about how I thought it was wrong taking down Confederate statues. Something your dad and I really bonded over. Mm-hmm. And, you know, this person was like, well, you're a neo-Confederate. You know, you're a Confederate apologist. I'm like, no, I'm just, your claim is that these are racist things. They were put up to promote racism. I've actually pulled up the newspaper articles when they were dedicated and nobody mentioned slaves at all. They were usually put up by the soldiers who served under these men. Right. And it wasn't about slavery. It was about, you know, these guys honoring these guys. And I tried corresponding with the person, you know, just going, you know, you completely misrepresenting who I am. I finally cut the person off of Twitter, and then they started harassing me on Facebook. So I cut them off on Facebook. Then when the Blue Dawn thing, the description, the book wasn't even out, just the freaking description went up. The person contacted a fellow author and said, I want to shoot him in the fucking crotch. Holy crap. Better yet, I want to set him on fire.
Damn, shoot you in the balls and set you on fire.
Sounds like a lesbian.
Holy crap.
I'm just kidding.
By the way, my wife was against both of those options. Just so which led me to wonder, does she have other options in mind that would be acceptable? It's better that I don't go there. So, you know, this resulted in me going to law enforcement. Law enforcement got a warrant because the person was sending me threatening emails as well, and trying to contact my blog, and I would have to block them. And I kept all of it. They got the IP address from all that, got a warrant, traced it down. And it turns out that the lesbian nurse who was 30 years old was actually a 40-year-old guy, unemployed, living in his father's basement. He had been arrested before for issuing terroristic threats from his job at Walmart. He was a guy that we found out was banned from Walmart. You know,
banned from Walmart.
Oh,
you know how hard it is to be banned from Walmart.
That's incredible.
That's amazing, dude.
And you know, I ended up getting a protective order against him, and I got a lawyer involved and everything else because you know there's potential libel / slander and stuff. And you know, when we got everything, I got a protective order put in place, and afterwards I outed the guy. I didn't give his address, I didn't dox him. I just said, you know, fans of this BattleTech community, which I'd written for 36 years, you guys have been listening to this person tell you that I'm a Nazi, a racist, a homophobe, blah blah blah. Okay, this is not a 20-year-old woman. This is not a lesbian who's adopting. He would go on about how he was nursing these 2 children he adopted.
Oh my God!
Oh yeah.
No, Blaine.
And I was like, by the way, all you guys who were kind of turned on by all that, you're listening to a 40-year-old guy.
A lactating 42-year-old male that's been banned from Walmart.
Oh my God. And so, you know, he continued to go on various rants about me, but he stopped contacting me. So, things were okay. But he did make some more threats. I had to go back and get the protective order renewed, which was hilarious all on its own because it's here in the courts in Virginia. And he made a big deal. He wouldn't come. He's in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. He wouldn't come to Virginia. I don't know why. I think he was worried about actually confronting me face to face. Personally, I think that's what the issue was. Yeah. And so they agreed finally after several court appearances, they'd let him come in on video. And it was hilarious. Now, if you were going to appear on video, this is how you want to appear, is how you guys appear. You want to have on a suit, tie.
You're before a judge.
Oh, yeah. Relatively nice thing. He chose his bedroom.
Oh, no.
His bed was unmade in the background and stuff. And he had this keyboard where he had a light that lit from bright blue. And he had a hoodie on. And
he had Cheeto dust on him. Cheeto dust that was fluorescent in the keyboard light. And
my wife looks at me and she's like, what the hell? And the judge is looking at me going, yeah. Regardless, the protective order remained in place.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was probably the easiest way to reinstate a corner.
Hey man, you could have told some of those Rangers when you were out there for the best Ranger competition. Said, "Hey man, I got a war story of my own." I'm gonna tell you. So there I was outside the Walmart.
They're real excited when you mention lesbian, but that chills them out.
That changed, man. That all went out the window, man.
But
I was like, man, this is a scolded woman out there. Oh, this is something.
Well, and my publisher dumped me because they're like, every time you write a book for us, this person goes online and just rants about what a Nazi you are and stuff, and it creates all these problems. So we're going to cancel all our contracts with you. And I'm like, I've been writing for you 36 years. You need to explain to the fans, what's going on. And they're like, yeah, we'll do that. And they didn't. And it took them months to actually pay me for what they owed me. And when they did, I was like, they're getting off scot-free. So I went public with it.
Yeah.
I just was like, this is what's going on. I got canceled and it's this person's fault. And it's amazing because even confronted with the reality, the other fans that were lefties that kind of followed this person still continued to try to, well, it doesn't matter that the whole thing was.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
He's still a Nazi. He's still a terrible person. And I never, having gone through cancellation was not an easy thing. I mean, because first of all, you don't know if one of these crazies is going to show up at your house.
Right.
And we've seen that the left is violent, as we talked about earlier on in this discussion. They're willing to fight.
And they're dead serious about it. And it's especially, it's legitimized by the fact that, well, they're talking about threatening a Nazi anyway. So what do you protect Nazis now? You don't want this guy to get shot in the crotch? But that was the other part of the big part of cancel culture that was so dangerous, I thought, was the gaslighting. People's lives were innately affected, their professional jobs, your ability to write a book. You're also getting harassed by a dude in a skirt and lives in a basement, banned from Walmart. I mean, this was happening all over the place, but it was I think it took about 1 or 2 years where the media was just, cancel culture is not a real thing. This is not really happening. Your algorithms aren't being messed with on social media. Hush, hush. And then COVID came and all that went out the window. Then everybody got a taste of this stuff.
Yeah, it was rough. And, it has encouraged me to write more Blue Dawn books.
Yeah, that's what it should do. That's what it should do.
Literally, if you're thinking this is going to stop me, I have news for you. I'm leaning into this shit.
Amen.
That's why you and my pop got along.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Well, now I'm curious. Could you go into kind of how did you find Defiance Press and what was that experience like?
You know what? It was so freaking easy because I was like, look, this is about the book the Blue Dawn series is about a second American Civil War. It's about the progressives violently overthrowing the government. I killed Joe Biden on page 6. It was awesome. But it was about that. And I was like, so I need a conservative publisher. And I literally went in and said conservative book publishers in Google. I think you guys were number 2 because you always get a paid one up front. The top one's always somebody who's paid money for a hit on Google. And I'm like, okay, I immediately ignore that one. But I saw Defiance Press and I was like, I looked, I was like, oh, I like the books they're publishing. Honestly, this is going to sound so corny. It was your logo.
Yeah.
The logo caught me.
Yes.
Because I'm like, and I've got 2 of the ball caps with the logo on it. I mean, I'm like, I like the logo because there's something about that. It says Second Amendment. It says Defiance. I was like, and that sounds kind of stupid. That's what a dumb way to pick a publisher. But I was like, I'll send the book in. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. There'll be other.
Honestly, that logo it's a big deal. I remember when he first created it and how excited he was, and I just always thought it was just the coolest thing. That's why I got the neon thrown up behind us because I just trying to find different ways to utilize that.
Well, and I see that it's important because so's the cover of your book. The cover of your book is what sells a book. I'm sorry, they will read the description only if they thought the cover looked cool.
Right.
That's the reality, guys. And so seeing the logo, it's the same thing. It's the cover of your company. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, these are guys that think the way I do.
Yeah. That's really awesome.
Into that what you will, But I was like, okay, these sound like the right guys. I sent the book in and I think I got an offer probably a week later.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, let's rock and roll. I mean, and it's been a great ride ever since. I've enjoyed the hell out of it. And Defiance has given me some great opportunities to do stuff. I loved when we did the no censorship thing, because I was going through that cancellation thing at the time. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to the let's fight censorship. I'm all about that. So for me, that was it was great. It's been a perfect synergy, but I hit the right publisher more by luck than anything.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's really good to hear the history to this and very fascinating and going through the cancel culture. I remember that event. A couple of them got canceled on us, right? That canned beer brewery over in Montgomery. My dad had a blast with that when he went to HEB headquarters.
Oh yeah,
because they were talking about pulling their. What a disgrace, man! Yeah. Just an absolute embarrassment for the county and very very cowardly type of behavior, all for this kid, and Kyle Rittenhouse being at the event.
Yeah.
So, and the coverage to it, and it's real interesting. Obviously being his son. you see how he interacts, how he is with his family, and then you read a news report and you're going, "What? Who is this guy? This guy sounds insane."
Well,
Nothing like my dad.
They crafted so many lies around Kyle Rittenhouse, and they do this with all of us. I mean, there isn't. I usually every 2 to 3 weeks get called a Nazi by somebody, and I'm like, it's like, you don't know who the hell I am to call me that. You don't know me.
No, but they're happy to do that blanket assessment on you because you're saying something they don't agree with, and if they don't have an argument, what do? You resort to things like violence, name calling, playground behavior. I'll call it.
Yeah. Well, but they've married that with violence, and we've seen that out in California, especially.
Oh, and it's getting worse. It's not getting any better.
Yeah, they've tried to kill the president twice. And at no point have they de-escalated any of the rhetoric.
Well, they just had a shooting in California yesterday.
They can't admit that their rhetoric is because that's what they've been accusing the right of doing for so long. They can't. Everything they accuse the right of doing, they're doing themselves.
The Civil War already started. It's a hot war. I mean, they're shooting at us now. They're shooting.
Oh, yeah.
The war has started. A lot of people don't realize the Civil War back in 1861 started in Baltimore with a riot.
We were covering that today, and I told this with people with COVID and people even after my dad died. I didn't share a lot of that, and I won't share it here today. But people were saying awful things. These people will dance on your grave, and if you look at what happened just with these floods, some people that lost their job with what they were saying, this is how they view the other side to it. This isn't some political, almost sports team. This is a violent.
We are the enemy to them.
This is we are Nazi scum, and we deserve everything coming to us, and we deserve no sympathy. We are below human status, and that's the unfortunate reality of where we are. It's very scary.
Well, and I have a line in Blue Dawn where I talk about in one of the books, I think it's the second book, where they're talking with the president, and he said, I looked at the 9/11 report. And if you read a lot of people didn't actually read the 9/11 Commission report. I did, because it's light reading, typical stuff.
Light reading.
Yeah, right.
But I read it, and there was a great line in the book where they talk about the 9/11 report, where they said, look, the problem was the United States has been at war with Islam, fundamental Islamic radicals, for decades. We just never realized it. Yeah. We preferred to look the other way, and it took 9/11 to make everybody go, whoa, these people are serious. Now, they've been blowing up embassies. They blew up Marine Corps barracks. They blew up all this stuff. We looked the other way all the time. But when 9/11 happened, that was when it was the realization, like, hey, these guys are at war with us. They've been at war with us for years. And to Mark's point, I think that's where we're at this point. We are at war.
We're at war.
Yeah.
We're at war, but most of the country hasn't had that 9/11 moment.
It hasn't touched them personally yet, but everybody with how prevalent I think it is, everybody's going to get a taste of this eventually.
It's coming,
especially if you lived in a major urban city. It'll come. You'll see this come
soon.
You wear the wrong hat, you do something, political in a public space in an area that's not in favor of what you're saying there. Just watch what happens and just see.
Oh yeah, it's going to get. It's going to get worse before it gets better. And I think people don't understand that yet.
Nope.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to understand it because, hey, we're talking, you guys are a conservative publisher. You've got conservatives who write books for you. This is going to be a big damn deal.
It's one thing that I've considered too, because it makes me, we got the address on our website, and I've debated back and forth about taking it down, but some part of my dad in me is going, fuck them.
Yeah.
Come on. What are you can't just hide from this and kind of, because they don't react well when you do fight back. They expect a lot of people to kind of lay down over this kind of stuff because, it's kind of scary. It's like, well, you know what? We can be really scary too. And not in an offensive type of provocative way.
I am.
But it's well, we know you are, Mark, but it's more so of a come and take it approach. You want to threaten, you want to make it hard for us to live. Well, we can do the same in return if you want it to get that far.
It was amazing when I went through cancellation. I gotta tell you, I was reached out to by no less than 3 former Green Beret SEAL types who are like, "Look, I can make this problem go away for you." They're like,
Mark's face over here. I
I've
wish I
done
could
it
zoom in on
before.
you.
I've done it before and I've done it again. And when we're done with this guy, he will never bother you again. Just give me his address. Don't worry about it. And there's that temptation. But to your point, it's like you're pushing the wrong people,
Right?
because we have access to things that most people don't. I'm not the kind of guy that's like, hey, I'm gonna stir. My whole thing was I don't want this guy suing me for having him beat to shit.
Right.
And he's probably that kind of person.
Yeah, that's how you lose, because then you end up in
they weren't going to beat the shit out of him, dude. They were going to take about 43 rolls of duct tape and a bowling ball, and trust me, they were going to have a lot of fun. That's after they stripped him naked and put him out in the piney woods, tied him to a pine tree for about 4 days, and let the coyotes lick on him a little bit, and then bring out the duct tape and the bowling ball and the Anyway, I'm sorry. I digress.
I had a number of people volunteer, and they were like, "Do you want to know?" And I'm like, "No, I don't want to. I don't want to do this, because then I become just as bad as they are."
Yeah.
I'm resorting to the violence.
Yeah, and then if you get cornered right or end up going to jail, then you can't fight nobody, and that's where some of it counts. But these people, the stalking and the out of the basement and all this, I mean, there's a sickness out there. There's people they're sick. The stuff that's being advocated for on that side is enough to see it. But when you come face to face, I'm sure that judge, that might have been the first time the judge has ever seen anything like that, for all I know.
In Spotsylvania Courthouse, Virginia, I assure you that was a rarity. But it's out there. And these folks, when I posted up, by the way, this guy isn't this woman isn't a woman, it's a guy.
Right.
And they live in Pennsylvania, and they got fired from their job for doing this, and they're banned from going to where they used to work because they were issuing terroristic threats. The first thing this person did was post, well, this is a transgender attack. I'm gender fluid. And I'm like,
it's never about their actions.
It's never about
their actions.
You caused this situation,
right.
And they're like, oh, the courts worked against me. And, and it's like, no, the courts didn't work against you. You threatened me. Well, I didn't threaten you directly. I let somebody you knew who was close to you that I was going to.
That makes it all right. I'm going to tell somebody I'm going to shoot you and hang you, but I only told my best buddy, and I put it on a public. Oh, come on, man. Yeah. It's so ridiculous, but
it is. It's crazy, but it's literally that crazy. And I'm sure there were some fluids that involve somewhere. but it's wild that these people are not productive members of our society.
No, they're not. They're not. And they're the ones getting the most amped up over things that have nothing to do with them. They're probably 60 to 80 to 100 years removed from any event they have a very limited understanding to, other than what they're being told to be outraged about. And it's a winners and losers mentality. Those people that are successful, or people like Elon Musk, they're the bad guys no matter what. And it's almost a self-loathing type of practice, and in a creating their own victims in their own mind, because they're a victim of everybody else's success, is basically how a lot of them. And that's honestly, I think public education and a lot of the training it's a trained module. And you're seeing a lot of the effects of this program out there in the public, more so, like you see in places like LA and California. My wife went to school at USC. The stuff that I don't know how she's alive, number one, but the stuff that is out there, I mean, people are so far removed from reality, from history and everything like this. And I think that's one of the more frightening aspects, is how easy it is to whip up anger and angst and violence on that side of it, just by, it doesn't even have to be true. It can come out as not true months later. People are still following the main narrative of what they were told. It's frightening.
Yeah, they embrace the lie and they hold on to it tight, because if they had to deal with the reality is they're bad people. And no, I'm serious. There's no other way to put it. You have to embrace the lie. And so they hold that lie tight and close to their chest, and it doesn't matter what the reality is. Then, that's the society we're in, and it makes for great fiction. I mean, I've had a blast.
It does. Yeah.
I'm doing another series with another publisher called Tenure, where it's the Punisher going after the woke. He goes and just kills these guys, and it works because people are like, you know what? Why hasn't somebody taken a gun and gone after these social justice warriors? They think they're real tough with a keyboard. Let's see how they deal with bullets.
Something tells me they wouldn't do so well. But I mean, to that point, it's easy to blame somebody else as being a bad guy versus looking at yourself and asking yourself, am I in the wrong here? Am I doing the wrong thing? Am I a bad guy? It's easier just to project it on somebody you don't even know who's writing a book out there and threaten to do some of this stuff. But I don't think they'd make it toe to toe.
Well, and it's amazing because it's a book that they hadn't read.
Right.
It wasn't out.
Yeah.
It was like you're doing it off the blurb on the back cover. It's not controversial.
Oh, that's just so unbelievable.
They made it.
Well, Blaine, I do. I know
it was great. Yeah. They handed me a great marketing tool.
Oh, that was what, whenever people were getting canceled on campus talks, immediately the first thing I did was go to see if they had a book out there. It's like, what they're freaking out. They're burning Berkeley down to the ground. They got to have a book out there. Let me see what they don't want us to read. And typically it's always very informative stuff that they don't want you hearing about. That's not by accident either.
At some point, I'm going to do a nonfiction book about this whole thing with Defiance at some point. Because it's like, look, because there's no books out there like, okay, when the cancel crowd comes at you, what do you do?
Right. Right. Yeah. And I'm just trying to picture the judge's face on the video. That's just, that's so wildly entertaining. People will eat that stuff up, man. I know I do. I these kind of stories and with some of the authors that are out there, it's incredible. People that don't even know you, the extent they'll go to. But no, Blaine, I know we've had you for 2 hours. I really appreciate you jumping on with us. Hold on. Let's do one thing real quick. Blaine, could you go ahead and introduce yourself and give kind of a little background on yourself and state your name, and we'll find a way to edit this to put this at the front of the interview.
Cool. Well, my name is Blaine Pardoe. I'm a New York Times and award-winning best-selling author. Have a lot of fun. I've got a series with Defiance Press called Blue Dawn. I write for other publishers as well. I write in a wide variety of genres: political thrillers, military sci-fi, true crime. I'm a little bit of everything at this point, and it's a lot of fun. I'm a writer full-time, and I embrace the writing lifestyle. I enjoy it, and I have a good time doing it. How was that?
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize they can't hear me when I do that. Oh, sorry. No, that was perfect. Blaine, go ahead and speak about some of the things you're working on. If you have any speaking engagements or any other activities you'd like to share.
Okay. I was just on Joe Kenda, American Detective, for one of my true crime books. You can actually look that up. And I am very much involved. I've got a new book coming out in the Blue Dawn series, which is called Brushfires of Freedom. I don't have a published date on that yet, but it's in the process. So I'm looking forward to that coming out. And I've got a book called Tenure, a series I do with Wargate Books. Tenure 3 is going to be out sometime this fall. So a lot of projects going all the time.
Awesome. Well, really appreciate you coming on with Defiance Daily and the Defiance Daily Show host here with
yes, thank you,
Mark Pruitt and Travis Roberts with your host.
I
Truly,
appreciate you guys having me on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is a lot of fun. Hope you'll come back again in the near future. Definitely as we go through stages of production on your book. And you've been. I think a lot of people are going to be very interested because I didn't know that you're a full-time writer.
Yeah.
This is his occupation.
This
folks.
is what he do.
So take good notes when he's talking to you about what it takes to be an author full time. Because it's not you don't just write a book and then publish it and then you're done.
No, not at all.
Not at all. Well, Blaine, I really appreciate the time. We'll bid you adieu. God bless you.
Thank you, Blaine.
Good luck on your
Great
endeavors. And thank you so much for spending so much time with us, man.
You guys have a great summer.
You too.
You too. Thank you, brother.
Bye-bye.